Hey, this is Michael from Bardic Inspiration, and a couple of years ago I found myself with a lot of extra time on my hands, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate, and I used that time to start getting into the world of PCs. This was a computer that I originally built as a pre-build from NZXT. You can probably tell that some of the parts have changed throughout the years, but I bought this as a pre-build because originally I was not confident that I would be able to put this entire system together and it actually be working. So now that the channel is starting to do some things that are going to require a more powerful PC, it's time, I think, to upgrade it. So let's go over to the current specs real quick. Right now I'm using, and this is what's going to stay the same too, is I'm using this Corsair 220T airflow case. The motherboard is an MSI Z390 mortar, currently running a 9th generation i5. We have a 650 watt semi-modular power supply from Corsair, and the least exciting part of the whole build, the GTX 960 graphics card. We won't go over that. The other thing in the build staying the same is that I have 2 sticks of 8GB 3200 megahertz RAM from Team T-Force, is the Vulcan Z, and I also have a 1TB SSD drive from Intel. So let's go ahead and we'll get into what is going to be new about this computer. At the heart of every computer that's not a gaming computer, so not the graphics card in this case, is the processor. And what we're going to be centering this build around is the 11th gen Intel i7 11700K. To pair with that 11th gen i7, we're using the Asus B560A gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. And with this build, I decided I also wanted to get into the world of liquid cooling. So what we have is the Arctic Freezer 2 240 ARGB liquid cooler. In classic rookie mode, somehow throughout the build of this computer over the years, with taking it apart and putting it back together, somehow my exhaust fan just went missing. So we're going to go ahead and replace that too, because it would be a smart thing to do. To go along with the RAM that I currently have in this computer, we're going to go ahead and add 2 more sticks of the exact same RAM, just the 3200 megahertz Team T-Force Vulcan C. And the last new piece going into this computer is actually a second 2TB SSD from Intel. So let's get into the disassembly. I have my buddy Matt over here who will be supervising, because even though I think that I can do this, still a little paranoid. Let's get into it.
It's alright, if anything goes wrong, it's my fault.
So now that we got the old motherboard and the bulk of the old components out, we can go ahead and start putting everything into the new motherboard. It's usually a good idea to try and get as much stuff onto the motherboard when it's outside of the chassis of the computer, because once it's in there, it gets really cramped. And this case in particular is also a more compact mid-tower style, so less room for someone with massive hands like me. So we'll go ahead and we'll get these RAM sticks in. Now normally, if you're only using 2 sticks, you might want to consult your motherboard's manual to find out which 2 DIMM slots you need to put your RAM into for it to actually post, because if you do it wrong, it might not even post in the first place. At best, it just won't read the amount of RAM you actually have in there. It'll only read one of them. Fortunately, since I've got 4 sticks, let's just go for it. Make sure you line up the notch that's in the RAM stick with the notch that's in the DIMM slot, and then just press in enough until you hear the DIMM slots click closed. Now we'll go ahead and we'll put in the SSDs. Alright, so we'll put the one that actually has my Windows installer and basically all my regular program files. I'll put that in the top slot, and then we'll put the other one in the bottom slot. If you want any advice and stuff on how to actually build computers, check out some channels that are actually, I think, qualified to do so. Like, obviously there's Linus Tech Tips, there's Jay's 2 Cents, Gamers Nexus, people like that. All right, so we've got the shield for the heatsink peeled off, so that way it actually is contacting the SSD. All right, so after a little bit of a snafu, encountering an SSD system that I've never actually seen before, because honestly this is only the 3rd computer I've been a part of building. Quite frankly, an ingenious invention for installing M.2s that don't require that tiny ass little screw. huge fan of that. So we'll get this second SSD installed, and this second SSD is gonna almost be exclusively for my EastWest sound libraries, because currently I am housing them on an external drive because I actually have more than 1 terabyte worth of sound libraries. So yeah, this one also has the handy dandy no screw necessary. Dude, that is magic. I love that. That is awesome. So now that we've got both SSDs installed, we can go ahead and get the processor in. Whatever. Okay, so we'll pop open the lever here, open this up, and then line up where the arrows are, so then we'll pop that in here. That pops right off like magic. Keep that, don't throw it away.
Why should they keep that?
Oh, you should keep this because if for any reason you have to send a motherboard back to either the person you bought it from or the manufacturer, they will not accept a return without this. So keep that just in case. You might never need to, but just in case you do, keep it. Alrighty, so let's get the AIO out. It's a good thing I bought thermal paste. Some coolers will come with thermal paste applied to the pump already, but not all of them do. So I wasn't sure which way this was gonna go, so out of paranoia that ended up paying off, I went and bought some more thermal paste, conveniently also from Arctic. Need the mounting hardware. Oh, you got it out, thank you very much. Handy assistant. Oh, it did come with thermal paste. It was just in the hardware bag. Okay, so that's cool. Score 1 for Arctic. If you are not sure what cooler to get, just get Arctic. They make some pretty reasonably cheap air coolers too. If you don't feel like getting into the liquid AIOs and stuff. So it's a good thing that I have my helper Matt here today, because I was watching the Gamers Nexus video on here, and apparently this is one of the kinds of pumps that when you install it, you need your mythical third hand. So, no manual in the box for this. However, there is at least a QR code on the box that will get you to an online digital version of the manual for this cooler, which is exactly what I have going on my phone right now. Never be too proud to look at the manuals for things. Oh, hey, look at that. Arctic links to a Gamers Nexus video. Oh, that's so cool. I'll go over this now because I don't want there to be a million comments about this. I'm aware that the most proper way to do an AIO is like that, radiator above the pump. That should be possible in this case. Worst case scenario, I'll just move 2 of the front fans to the top and orient it more like that, tubes at the bottom. I see that. If that doesn't work out, I'm gonna have to do it like that, which is what everyone gets up in arms about. But as long as the pump is lower than the top of the radiator, it's gonna be fine. It's not the most ideal way, but it's not gonna kill anything. But like, that's the way I'm gonna try and do this if all goes according to plan. I can't wait to edit this down and make me look like not an idiot. So now would be thermal paste time, but I want to make sure that that I know exactly how this is going before, because I want to see where the wires are coming off of first. So something I had just realized actually about this case is that I had never actually removed the hard drive bay, which I'm going to go ahead and do now because I don't use internal hard drives. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of here. So for this case, I know that there is a screw right up here, and then there's 4 on the bottom. And like the real reason for removing the hard drive bay, other than the fact that I just don't use it, like if that were the only reason, then then there's not really a point in removing it in the first place. But the other reason that you can do that is because it gives you more room for cable management. So that should allow me to take this out. Cool. Don't worry about this rat's nest of cable management. We will clean that up later. Yeah, we can go ahead and peel this off of the I/O shield here, which we can go over. One of the reasons why I chose this motherboard over other motherboards. One, I like that, and I see this more on Asus boards. I don't know if other boards, other manufacturers do this more. It's got an external BIOS flash button, which in this instance won't be necessary, but if you did for some reason need to update your BIOS and you didn't have either a compatible CPU to actually post in the first place, then you'd be able to do it from here instead. Because otherwise you have to get to the BIOS menu in order to do that. And without a compatible processor, it just won't post an image in the first place. So I've run into that problem before. Also, I love the fact that it's got like a ton of USB ports. That's going to be very helpful. So we'll go ahead and get this in here and lay this down so that way I can get this screwed in. There. This is why a magnetic screwdriver is handy though, is because one of the screws is way back here, and if you're someone like me with massive hands, this is one of the hardest parts of building a computer in my opinion. There we go. Now the motherboard's in. So that means now is the moment of truth for me, where we can double and triple and quadruple check that this AIO will fit properly in here. So, ooh, that is tight, but it works. That the radiator is not contacting either the IO shield heatsinks or the RAM, and it is staying just above. So cool. That was the one thing. If you have a smaller compact case like this, RAM is something you gotta make sure that you're not getting too high profile RAM, like a RAM that comes up too high if you are limited on space, because if this RAM were any taller, then this AIO would not work in this case. So before you put the AIO in, especially in my case where if I don't do some cable management beforehand, I'll actually block a lot of the best places to put things, particularly the CPU power. In this case, I'm going to plug in the CPU power before I install the AIO, and thus cover it up by feeding it through this hole in the back. And I'm going to do the same thing with my additional exhaust fan. So now I'm going to look to see if there's anything else that I need to put in before installing the AIO. Let's go ahead and put this in. Oh yeah, there we go, perfect. So there's a lot of debate about how much thermal paste and how you apply thermal paste. Gamers Nexus, to shout them out again, did a really good video where they pretty much almost conclusively proved there's no such thing as too much thermal paste when it comes to performance. At least there is such a thing as too much thermal paste when it comes to just making a mess. You don't have to worry about putting too much on there in terms of performance. There is such a thing as too little, so you don't want to put too little, but oops. We'll cut that part out. No, we won't. A pea-sized drop right in the center. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this too. Don't listen to anybody who wants to act like there's some holy grail method to it, because there isn't. And now we can get to mounting the go ahead and install the graphics card, and like I said earlier, this is the least exciting part of the build, to be honest. Even less exciting than putting on this exhaust fan, because this is first and foremost an audio PC, so having a heavy-duty graphics card is not the most important thing. Plus, as of the filming of this video, graphics card prices are still high. They're going down. They are definitely going down. But once they get back to MSRP, that's probably when I'll end up actually replacing this graphics card. So for right now, we've got an MSI GTX 960. We'll just go ahead and plug this in because it's the graphics card I've got. Awesome, so let's go ahead and see if I plugged all this stuff in. If all the RGB turns on, then at least I did that right, and then we'll see if we can get her to post. Moment of truth. All right, so power plugged in, power on. Hey, look at that. Not out of the woods yet. Like I said, we gotta hook this up to a monitor and make sure that it's actually posting correctly. But things are looking good so far. Yes! Woo! Ah, she posted! So it worked. I'm gonna be honest, that worked the first time. We were gonna do some clever editing if it didn't work the first time, but now we don't have to do clever editing. Awesome! Oh man, I'm so stoked. Look at that. Okay, so it's reading both of my SSDs there. Cool. All right. Shout out to people like Linus Tech Tips, Jay's 2 Cents, and Gamers Nexus, because everything I've learned from PCs is basically come from them. So thank you for watching. If you've gotten this far in the video, you know, look out for more videos in the future, I guess. I'm still surprised it worked.